In the previous two videos, we prepared our dress form and muslins, and then we started draping the front basic bodice. We took our time to make sure that everything was squared up and perfect, and we trued this up on the tabletop. Now we're ready to come in and start draping the back, and then meet up with the front at the side seams and make sure everything is balanced and perfect. Pin the back at the neck, pointing here towards the shoulder blade level. Drape this smooth and lightly all the way down to the waist at center back, and point your pin back towards the shoulder blade level. Now put a pin here at center back at the shoulder blade level. Then we're going to pin this in place. Put 3 pins in here, pointing downwards, holding the shoulder blade level perfectly parallel with the ground. Be sure to step back and check this and make sure it's totally horizontal with the ground. You can also come in and you can be looking at this vertical guideline as well to make sure that that looks straight up and down. As you follow along the guideline here, this is the last pin where I'm able to pin it to my dress form. But if you remember, we measured another 1/4 inch out and made a guideline. That guideline there is actually floating out in space. So if I put a pin there, it's not attached to the dress form because it's floating out here in space. What we need to do is we need to move that guideline slightly back so we can pin it to the dress form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this pin over here so I can bring this guideline just far enough back to where now I can pin it to my dress form. I also want to make sure I'm maintaining my horizontal balance line. Now this extra amount of ease here, we're going to distribute it evenly along this line. Now make this adjustment using your fingernails so you're not stretching your muslin. Here at the vertical guideline, we're going to pin once down and 1 pin going up. That's going to help lock this in place. Now this guideline here is going to be the center of your back side princess panel, and we need it to remain vertical when we pin it here at the waist. At first, if you come and smooth this down to the waist, you'll notice that it's twisting away and it's no longer straight up and down. So you have to come down here, down at the hip level, and hold this vertical, and then gently smooth this down with the back of your finger, allowing the fabric to travel up towards the waist. Then we can pin it once, pointing back up, and scoop back and make sure that that is totally straight up and down. Now if it's in the correct location, let's go ahead and pin it 1 down. We already have 1 up. And we'll come in here to the middle, and we're also going to pin this 1 down and 1 up. And that's going to lock it in place. Now we can come in at the bottom of that guideline, and we're going to cut along the pencil within 1/2 inch of the bottom of the waist. Now that we have everything locked in place and it looks good, what I'm going to do is I want to put a pinch of ease on that guideline, same thing as we did with the front. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put 2 pins above the waist to lock down my vertical line. Then I'm going to take out the pins at the waist so I can come in here and do a pinch of ease. And again, this is right along the waistline. Now I want to finish locking this vertical line back again at the waist, and then I can take out the 2 pins that were above the waist. So now I have my pinch of ease to give this a little bit of room here. Now using the backs of my fingers, I'm going to smooth this over to the side seam. And we want to get this at the bottom of the plate at the side seam and down here at the waist and the side seam. There's a little bit of tension here. Be sure to not clip this and do not clip anywhere out here in the raw edge of the side seams. We have to keep this as one solid block of fabric. Alright, so everything looks really good. What we're going to do is we're going to come in here and at the side seam, bottom of the plate, I just want 1 dot because we might end up changing this later. Do the same thing down here at the bottom of the waist. We're going to get the junction of the bottom of the waist at the side seam, and again we want just 1 dot. Now it's tempting to come in here and start to drape the back dart, but this result might change later, so we're not going to do that just yet. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the side seams of the front and back are balanced, and that will determine if we have this totally vertical and if we have this totally horizontal. Okay, take out the pin from the back side seam and find the location of this dot on the back side of the fabric. Now let's do the same thing down here. We're going to take the pin out of the bottom at the waist, and we want to make sure that we can see this location from the back side of the fabric. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the front at the bottom of the plate. So not the new side seam, yes, bottom of the plate. We're going to put our pin through there, come around to the bottom of the plate from the back, and I'm going to pin them together. So I'm pinning the front to the back, following along the tight body line. And again, these layers are pinned together and it's not pinned to the dress form. Now let's come down here to the side seam at the waist. For instance, mine right here is red because I fixed it. And you can see over here I have my dot from the back. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my side seam at the waist, put a pin through it, and I'm going to put it through the dot that I have for my side seam at the waist for the back. And then I'm pinning this so it's pointing back up towards the side seam at plate, and also I'm pinning it to itself. It's not pinned to the dress form. Now what we're going to do is we're going to smooth these 2 layers together. And it's really important you don't stretch anything. We're just smoothing it from the pin out to the edges. And then out here at the edges, we can pin this together so it doesn't move. And do the same thing down here at the waist. Now, this stage of the drape is absolutely critical, and this is what's going to separate a professional drape versus an amateur drape. If you recall, I kept saying never to cut a bunch out of the waistline and never to cut anything here along the side seams. The reason being is because we have a nice solid piece of fabric going back to the center of the princess panel for both the front and the back. We're able now to come out to the side seams and see if our side seams are parallel. So we're checking that the grains are parallel. Even though the side seam itself eventually will be cutting at an angle, we still want to make sure that the grains are parallel. So for instance, if I had a stripe from the front here, it would match perfectly with the stripe from the back here. And that will make these side seams balanced. So when I come and look at mine, I'm noticing that the front is a little bit short of the back up here, and then the front is a little bit longer than the back down here. So for instance, my horizontal bounce line and my center of my princess panel maybe need to slightly shift a little bit. Maybe something's going on with the tension here for the dart. Or in the back here, maybe I have this vertical line shifting forward, shifting back a little, and my horizontal bounce line is shifting down a little bit, which is moving the fabric edges out here. And I know right now that my side seam grain lines are not balanced. So what I need to do is I need to start going in and doing little adjustments here and there till eventually I can get these pinned together at the armhole plate and the waist at the side seam with my grains balanced. Alright, so what I've done now is I spent a good 20 minutes just working on adjusting the waist at the back side seam as well as the front. And then I noticed that I was starting to even relax this front dart a little bit more by having my horizontal bounce line just drop down a little and shifting the center of the princess panel just over a titch more this direction. And then of course the last thing here is these two raw edges are parallel. They don't have to be stacked on top of each other. They just need to be parallel. So the different lengths of your fabric does not matter. And so you can notice here that my front is just a little short of the back at the top, and it's the exact same results here at the bottom. So again, it doesn't matter which layers in front or anything, it just matters that they are totally parallel. Now I can see I still like my original front at side seam, but I need to come up here and I need to fix my side seam at bottom of plate. And of course your results are going to be different, but you'll need to go in and do your fixes now. Everything else looks really good on this, so let's come in and let's finish by getting our back dart. For finding the location for the back dart, you can decide if you want to do 3 inches in from center back is going to be the first dart leg, and then the other dart leg will match right up along that. Or you could find the princess panel on your dress form and line up your dart with the princess panel. For me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 3 inches from center back along the waistline. I'm going to put a dot on my fabric, and I'm going to pin this to the dress form. So then the remaining allowance after having this pinned here at the princess panel, I'm going to roll this over and start forming a dart so I can pin this on the other side. Again, so the dart is exactly side by side with a pin on both sides. Now if I like the location of this dart, I can come in here at the waist level and I'm going to pin the dart to itself. And I'll take these pins off of the dress form so it's free floating. Again, the reason for doing this is it'll allow me to see any mistakes if I'm pinning this too tight. Now up here you can see where the dart starts to just kind of fade into the main body, so that would be somewhere around where the dart tip will be. Some designers, what they'll do is they'll specify to come up 7 inches and make a dart tip. Another way you can find this location is it's somewhere here in the middle of your back, but always make sure you're never making the dart going above this plate level. So for me, it's somewhere in this area. I kind of like here, right around the middle of the back. I'm going to just put a faint line in there to remind myself later that that's where I want the dart tips to end. Alright, we're ready now to come up here and start doing the shaping for the neck. Alright, so come up 1 inch from the top of the neck, and we're going to cut off this 1 inch fold. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth along the neck, and I'm going to cut my fabric just above the neckline. So I'm coming all the way out here to where I can see the shoulder from the front. And then I'm going to pin here at the shoulder and neck edge. If it's hard for you to see through your fabric, go ahead and double check that the shoulder here hasn't moved and you love the location for it. And let's make this darker. Following along the shoulder line, eventually we're going to come all the way out and start to make a dart exactly where the front dart is. But in between these 2 points, we want to add a little bit of ease. So I'm adding a pinch of ease here in the middle of the shoulder between the neck and the first dart. Now I can continue smoothing out to the first dart leg. And this is matching the same location as the center of the dart from the front. Then I'll put my pencil underneath the fabric, and my pencil is pointing back towards the top of the dart from the waist dart. Now I can pinch 1/4 inch dart, and then I'll pin it here on the opposite side. This small 1/4 inch dart should be pointing back towards the tip of the waist dart on the back. In some cases, you might have it slightly larger, like 1/2 inch or almost even 3/8, depending on the shape of your custom shoulders. Now from the shoulder dart coming out to the armhole ridge, I want to do one more pinch of ease. This distance now is going to be slightly longer than the front shoulder seam, and this is correct. When you sew them together, you will slightly ease the back shoulder to match with the front shoulder. And then we'll continue pinning all the way out to the armhole ridge for the back. Alright, so double check yours with me now. There's a pin here at the neck and shoulder ridge. We're doing a pinch of ease right here. There's a pin here and here holding a little tiny 1/4 inch dart, and it matches the dart from the front. We have a second little pinch of ease, and then we're all the way out here to the shoulder armhole ridge, the same location as the front. If everything is correct, let's go ahead and mark this. So we have the direction of the neck at the shoulder. Come out to our dart tip. We have the direction of the dart tip as well as the direction of the shoulder. and the other side. Continue following the shoulder all the way here to the armhole ridge. And then we can get a sense of what is the armhole ridge doing. Let's go ahead and make sure here at center back that we like this location. And then let's get 2 dots following along the neck, heading towards that juncture. Down here at the armhole plate, I have my correction already in red, and I have my new side seam in red. Let's come over to the center of the princess panel, and we'll get 1 dot for the waist. And then over here for the back dart, let's get the direction of the dart leg and the bottom of the waist on both sides of the dart. We can continue and get 1 dot following along the waist, and then just double check that your original mark for the waist, you like it. If not, go ahead and make your change now. At this stage now, I'm ready to take my drape off of the dress form, but we're going to leave the side seams here pinned together. So take everything else off except for the side seams. Alright, let's take this back to our tabletop and we're going to true it up.